There we go. All right. Apologies about that. Well, I was trying to get some sound working. I'm actually using. I figured out why it's not working. RTX. So what I am doing is I'm actually using this tool from NVIDIA called RTX Voice. It's awesome when it works. It's absolutely awesome, but when it works. So let me try this again. It is, and I'll explain actually what it is. So let me try this and see if this is going to work. And hopefully you can still hear me. Yeah, I think you can still hear me. I'm just going to test again. Just making sure. Apologies about all of this. Cool. Thank you. So RTX Voice is actually a really cool tool from NVIDIA. What it does is uses AI and all that. I know AI, but it actually does work. It removes pretty much most of the background noise. I was viewing a video last night with it that it actually removed basically all the background music to the person's video, and then they were also showing the construction noise behind the scenes and actually removed all of that. So, and you could hear them as clear as day. So it's a really cool thing. So if you've got an NVIDIA graphics card, certainly look at that. If you have a RTX, you can use NVIDIA Broadcast, which has got other cool things for video cameras and that. But if you just got a GeForce card, there's RTX Voice. And that's what I'm using at the moment, and it works really well. Okay, so apologies about the start. Recapping, what I've done here is I've used a tool called Notion. It's a really cool tool. It's kind of a wiki type thing. It has like a whole bunch of features. It's really powerful. And the cool thing is it's got all markdown in that. And the other really cool thing is there's a free version that comes with quite a bit. Their personal pro is like really cheap. It's like $4 a month if you pay for the year, $5 a month if you pay monthly. So it's really cheap. And you can actually share pages. So rather than standing up a whole service and all of this kind of thing, you can actually make these pages publicly accessible via a link. And you can also allow people to edit it and all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, if you're probably sharing pages, probably not wise to allow people to edit, but you can actually comment on it. So what I've done is I've created this page to kind of take us through this process of Juice Shop and covering the things that we've tackled, and then the things, just kind of working through that. So what I have there is the session from Monday. And just recapping, we managed to get the error handling. Also, I think someone else did. So kudos to them. Confidential documents. So if you remember, we went to /FTP. There were all those documents there. One of them had like confidential information on it. So we grabbed that. There was a capture bypass where we were going to script it, but actually turns out there was an ID associated with a capture. So you could just resend that and then do basically enumeration. And then there was a scoreboard where we viewed some of the source. I think some of the data came back and we found the URL for the scoreboard. We were able to access that. Now, the one thing that we didn't successfully tackle was that DOM XSS or the XSS. So I figured out what was going on and where I was going wrong and why it wasn't working. So I'm going to talk through that really quickly first, just explaining why it didn't work and actually how we can get that XSS to trigger. So I'm going to spin up Burp quickly, and away we'll go. There. Now, there's an actual really good tool. I'm not going to do it through Burp because it's just going to create a lot of noise. But there's a really cool tool called JS Fiddle. Now, what this tool allows you to do is basically create pages on the fly. It can be really, really, really useful when you're trying to test and experiment with things. So here we'll just create a really basic page. So head, standard HTML, nothing exciting. I don't even know why I'm putting title, but we'll just put it there. And then have a body. With some H1. I'll call this test. All right. So here's your HTML. You can even include things like style sheets and JavaScript. And it's even got like different frameworks that you can use. So it's really powerful. So if we now run this, you can dynamically task web pages. So rather than having to go and create a whole HTML file, edit that file, refresh your browser and all that, you can just start using this as a means of doing this. And you can save these and then you can collaborate. Now, the reason why I mentioned this is we were thinking it was actually the span tag that was possibly preventing that XSS from executing. And that's not the case. So what I'm going to do is do an XSS script alert. And we'll run this. And if it works, we should get a pop-up. There we go. So the span tag wasn't actually responsible. So what was? Well, let's go actually have a look at the page. So we're going to load up the app again. I haven't managed to get it running locally. It's still running in Heroku, so apologies. It's been a mad week at work. So, but nonetheless, it'll load. It just takes a bit. So while it's loading, just make sure everything's set up. And this isn't, so typically you would define this as a reflected cross-site scripting vulnerability, right? Let's close these out. So, yeah, I'll do that. So if you do, like, as we were doing before, so if we go script, alert, XSS, script. Okay. Oh, yeah. So it didn't work. Right. Now, why is it not working? Well, we're thinking that this is a reflected cross-site scripting. So remember, reflected is you have an input field, you put it in, and then it's regurgitated somewhere else. And that's what we thought, right? We put in, we do a search, yeah, and it's rendered out. And even if we put in the script tags, so in this case, script alert XSS, all right, it's still rendered out. So if we go and inspect this, it's still kind of like, well, showing you. So why is it not running? Well, this is where modern web apps really start coming into play here. So when we actually trigger this, we'll do a search. We're not actually sending a request and then getting the page result back. And by that, I mean, if we now go view the browser tools, we actually view the network. Yeah, so let's just change that. All right, you'll see it's dynamically changing here, but we're not actually making any request. So what's happening is the search is actually being rendered within the web page. So if we do a script alert script, the page is actually not loading. And this is how the script tag actually executes. It's an event. Basically, when the page is loaded or loads that script tag, that's when it'll execute it. But because we're not reloading the page, that script tab's not going to run. Now, you might be asking, okay, well, that's great, but how can we get it to work? Now, one of the things we can do is we can do an image tag. So if we go image, source equals. Gonna make sure my cross-site scripting is see if my HTML is right. So there we go. All right. So that's obviously big. But what we're doing is we load in the image tag. Now, why have I done that? Well, one of the things we can do for cross-site scripting is deal with events. So if something happens on the page or that specific element, we can then trigger JavaScript. So what we can do is like on mouse over, now we can call the alert box. Yeah, end that off. All right. So if we do that, now you can see that cross-site scripting is actually executing. And this is because we're modifying the DOM. So the DOM, the document object module. I think that's what I'm terrible with acronyms, and this is going to get annoying. But we're actually modifying the DOM itself. So anything in terms of like event handling and that, we can now inject that cross-site scripting. And that doesn't rely on the page being refreshed. It's an event that gets triggered on that specific object within the page. Because we're injecting a new object, everything associated with that object in terms of events will be triggered. So you could do click, basically there's several events associated with different types of elements. So I don't know what they are, but yeah. The best is go look at the reference and you'll figure out all the elements. So that is how we actually get the XSS. So we've got the DOM XSS. Now, for us to actually win it, we want to make sure we get it. We want to, I think I was looking, I'm too used to Mac now. I think, okay, so they want an R frame. Okay, so that's easy. We should be able to just put that in there. No, we should just be able to put that on the end there. Okay. Oh, okay. There we go. So now, there we go. So now we've managed to, and in this case, the source is, just JavaScript, so you can trigger that. So yeah. So that is how we get XSS in terms of this. So especially like modern web apps, you're probably looking more towards DOM based, because remember, as I showed you in the beginning last week, where it's a single page web app. So you have that, it's essentially an initial call to return the HTML page, and then everything subsequently is basically API calls. And that's the other thing that I've remembered when I was investigating this. So remember, like, as I said, everything's like API calls. So if we do, I don't know, let's come back to this page here, apple juice, right? We search for apple. How does it know that's there when there's actually no request being made? So if we come back here and try to refresh the page, just to show you. So let me clear that. And let the page load. So if we go here, search, and we're going to search for apple. Wait, how's it done that? It's not done any sort of requests. Well, this is where it's actually using WebSockets. So we come here. You can actually see. Oh, I'm not going in burp yet. Apologies. So if we go there. Should be able to now see. We just search it again. And there we go. So you can see that there it is sending off the what we're searching for to the server, and that will come back with the appropriate things to display. So that's where it's actually using WebSockets. So this is where you can see modern web apps have complicated things a bit. Though these things are really awesome because they allow a lot of cool things to happen. But as part of that old traditional model of, send a request, get the whole page in the response is kind of going away. So that was that XSS, right? So we've managed that. As I said last week, what I like doing is trying to tackle some of the front-facing things, but I think we got as far as we wanted to in terms of the front-facing things. Sorry, I was just looking here and just seeing if there's an open redirect, and it's not, because that's just a thing. Actually, you could actually call this an open redirect, right? Now, what is an open redirect? Well, as the name suggests, it takes in a parameter and redirects to anything provided. So in this case, what we're doing is calling this with a parameter called redirect to, and then the URL to redirect. Now, why is this an issue? Well, I can now just redirect to, say, my site. Okay. Actually, looks like it is to open redirect. This is what you're expecting. I want to check. That's right. Cool. Okay, so it's actually not a open redirect, I think. No. Okay. So as you saw there, open redirect would then allow you to redirect to those other sites. Now, this is a problem because this enables things like phishing, where most people just look at the server itself here, and they go, okay, that's the server I'm expecting, so it's all dandy. Oh, it's redirecting to this other site, so therefore I'm assuming it's legitimate. So it's a great means of doing phishing type of things. So if you can imagine the site has like a login page, well, you can now stand up a malicious server with a phishing login page, and then the user wouldn't even know, unless they're really paying attention to the URL here, that they landed on a phishing login page. So open redirects are often downplayed. I know there's a certain vendor, if you go browse my blog, I've read it about it, Google, that seems to think they aren't an issue. But I do think I wouldn't say absolute significant issue, but as I mentioned, they do allow and enable potential phishing attacks, because the URL that's originally presented to the user looks totally legitimate based on all the things that we told them to look for. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I was expecting this to be open redirect, which is cool. Maybe it's not filtering on HTTP. No, that's interesting. That's I was not expecting that. Cool. So those are all those. I don't think we got any further with this. But in the meantime, let's see what's down here. All right. So this website uses fruit cookies. So that goes to YouTube. What happens when you click on yeah? Okay, I guess nothing. All right. I suspect there's something associated with that, but anyway, let's just do another just sanity check on this page here, just making sure that there's maybe nothing else that we're missing. Refresh that. So let's have a look. Cowboy. Okay, so this is interesting. There's a SID. I don't know what that is. Server Cowboy. All right, I'll keep a lookout for that. Assets. All right. Memories. Get memories. What is this? And repeat it. Problem is, a lot of these have been cached. So let's uncache them. All right, so yeah, I remember now. We were trying to look for this uploads and see if we could access anything from this image path, but I don't think we could. Just see what this image links is. All right, so if we just go to there. Let's close this out. All right, so let's see, what did that return? Okay, so that just returned the page itself. So I think it actually needs a file here. Just out of interest, let's just see, can we do directory traversal? So directory traversal is where you're trying to break out of the kind of directory structure of the web app. And this is probably more a configuration thing on the app server rather than the app itself. Not always, but it depends on the language and the app server and that kind of thing. And if an app is vulnerable to directory traversal, it then means that an attacker is then able to view files on that system, typically whatever with the permissions of that app running. So if there's any sort of configuration for the app, the attacker would be able to get that. So things like database passwords, keys, certificates, and their private keys, that kind of thing. And then also going on to kind of system level type configuration that you could potentially get. So the kind of de facto one is @c password, because we always know that's going to exist on a Linux system. So if we know the system's Linux, then pretty much guaranteed if there's directory traversal, well, not pretty much guaranteed, but it's a good task to do. And the reason why you want to do so many // is you want to go, so // is going up a directory. And basically this means you're going all the way to root. Because you probably don't know how far what the directory structure is of where the app's running. By doing a whole bunch of // if you do // of root, it's root. So you eventually head root, and no matter how many times more you go // you always head root, and then you go @c password. So that way you know you're going to hit root with a high degree of confidence, and if it does exist, then it would return the @c password. And in this case, that didn't work. So no, what do you call it? No directory traversal. So it looks like anything that's not really an asset is actually mapped and just return this default page. So you don't even get like 404s or something like that. So that is an interesting approach from a security point of view. So 404 means page not found. And you could use that as a means of iterating, where I can't tell if this exists or not, because you're always returning generic. So in security, when you have errors and something outside that's not the normal or exception, being as generic as possible is almost always the best option. So things like user login, failing a user login, you don't want to tell them, hey, your username's wrong, or this user doesn't exist, or hey, your password's wrong, because now you're giving an attacker information like, if your password's wrong, but the user exists, then you know there's a user. And you're telling them explicitly where they failed in the login. Similarly, like with assets, you don't want to do some with 404s and then some with 201s and that kind of thing, because an attacker could then use that to build a map of your site. 200, 201 means that resource exists, so therefore they know that's a valid resource. Whereas this case, like anything we had is 200, so we don't know if it exists or not. Although maybe, well, it depends. So there are these scripts, so you could maybe use the length as a differentiating factor. If it doesn't exist, you generally probably just return a 404 and it's some generic message. Whether the and that's the same goes for even if the resource exists and they don't have access to it, you want to return the same type of message. So generally, like if a user is not authenticated, you just return 401, whether the resource exists or not, because then that way they can't build up a picture. Same as a 403, you generally want to return a 403 instead of 404. That way they can't tell if it exists or not. So that kind of stuff really helps. Obviously, if it's public, so like my blog and that, the resources are there, they're public. So knowing it exists or doesn't exist is not that useful. But certainly from a site that you have some sort of intellectual property and functionality around it, you probably want to protect some of that. So I don't know if we're going to get any further with this. So let's start delving into maybe a bit more juicy things. But let's just see, we're going to cheat a bit. I'm going to go to the scoreboard and let's just see if there's anything else on there. I know it's cheating, but we'll see. Let's only show the level ones. Why is it not showing the level ones? Only bonus payload, bully chatbot. Okay, so we've done the confidential. We've done DOM. I don't know why. Okay. Figured out how the scoreboard works. Right. So give a devastating 0-star feedback. Okay, let's try to tackle that one, because we should be able to do that without validation as well, authentication. So let's go back to here. So if you remember, this was the one where, this was the one where we had the captcha and we kind of bypassed that. So if we go here, submit a feedback, and then you got a rating. So 5 all the way to 1. So bad, bad, bad. Now, what this is probably going to result in is client-side validation. So let's just, well, actually, no. It's not even client-side validation, because you can't even do 0 on here. You can only do 1. Client-side enforcement, if you want to call it anything. So I think if I'm right, it's -7. We'll sip on that. It's good. Oh, my kid will probably put me to shame with this. All right, so let's get rid of these, because this is going to be fun with all the. When you're doing this and it's got WebSockets, you probably want to disable these unless you explicitly want to see the WebSockets, because WebSockets can be quite noisy. So we'll just do that. All right, so here we go. There's a rating, 1. So what happens if we do like -1? Forward. Turn that off. All right, so let's see what happened. Where's that request? There we go. There's the post. Bad. Okay, and did we get that? Did we actually get that? I don't think we did because I think I wanted a 0. Yeah, 0. So what we can do is, I'm too lazy to do it again. Let's just do a 0. Send it. Yay, there we go. Simple as that. So this is why you never want to rely on client-side mechanisms. You always want to do server-side. You can do client-side. Now, not to say you should never do client-side. Client-side is important from a usability point of view. So in this case, ordinary users would never do what we were doing here. So by limiting it this, you're making their lives easier rather than, well, they could potentially put in a 0, so therefore it's gonna make their life harder. So having the slider makes it nice and easy for them. If they want to try circumvent it, then that's where the server-side checks come in. But always know any sort of client-side checks and validation can pretty much always be able to circumvent. Oh, what's going on there? Oh. All right. Let's just see if there are any more on there. Let it dry. Okay, so it looks like they've got a privacy policy, which should be publicly accessible, but anyway, choose the photo. Okay, so it looks like there's a photo, which I thought there might be. So there's around the photos. So let's again probably go have a look at that. All right, and then we'll get on to maybe some of the authentication stuff. So let's go to the photo wall. There's a Twitter, and that's Twitter as well. Okay. Go there, go off to Twitter. Let's go back here, photo wall. All right. Looks like there's some validation error. Anything, memories. To repeater. Caching's a pain. This is probably where you can use rules. So we could actually, let's try it now. I wonder if there's an option here to remove from the requests. I'm trying to see if there's an option to remove the header with the what do you call it? The if none match, because then that way we can effectively remove caching. So that's intercepts. Okay, let's do this. So what we could do is add one here. So request header. What's it? Let me just copy that. If not match, we'll just remove it. Add. That. Replace with that. Regex match. Should be it. So we're effectively removing it. Let's test it. Uh, um, hmm. Didn't work. Ah, what? It's- ah, I missed the wild card. Just go back to the front and then back to let's see if this works. Didn't look like it worked. If no match. That's weird. Why is it not working? Oh, it actually is working. Sorry. I'm not concentrating. So if you have a look here, here's the original quest with it. And then auto modified, gone. So that's a quick and easy way of kind of removing that caching so we can actually see all of this all the time and see what's there. I, I'm assuming that maybe there's just trying to see. There's probably some of these. So let's actually have a look. Because I think some of these might not even be valid. So I think it's actually within this. This is where we can actually view things. So this is like effectively possibly, what do you call it? Broken access control. Sorry, it's been a long day. Brain's not functioning all that much. So that one's there. Because that's their favorite hacking place. It's probably an easier way to script this out. Oh, there's default admin. Left out at D. Okay. Oh, all right. That looks like something. And I think. Right. No. Oh, I was getting excited there. Selected item. Maybe. Take that away. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. What is this? Maybe that? Is that on there? Yeah. Hmm. And that will be the first one. Maybe it's doing something weird. Nope. I don't know. All right. We'll come back to this. I have no idea what that is. Just one final quick squiz through this board, and then we'll start on the login stuff. Cool. All right. Okay. So we come back here. Choose a language. Just want to make sure that we actually go through these as well, because I don't think we've gone through them. Reviews. Can we take? There's only one left. 500 reviews. Nope. And anything else at the bottom? 36 sold out. Just checking there's nothing there. That's pretty cool. Can even get a tattoo. Get a juice shop tattoo. It's pretty interesting. Okay, cool. Now let's go to a bit more exciting. So login page. One of the things that a login will typically do is reference some sort of database somewhere. Now, in the past, there was probably a relational database / SQL. These days, it could be anything from a service, so identification service. So you talk things like Okta and OneLogin and all of that kind of stuff, where it talks behind the scenes and all of that, and you can do single sign-on, all of that lovely stuff. Or it could also be like a more modern database, so MongoDB and that kind of stuff. But what you want to do is just see different things. So here it's an email. So we'll just do admin. Now, one of the things that we do know is we know there's an admin email address. So we can actually use a legitimate email address. How do we know that? So if we come back here and we view things like this, there's an email there. So this is probably why you don't want to have this email address put here. You would probably want to have some name or generic type data there, or don't even show it to unauthenticated people, because I can't add this to a basket in that. So how's the review going to maybe help? Anyway, but you don't want an email address. So we know that this email is probably guaranteed to exist. So we can then use this to do what's brute forcing. Now, as you can see here, it isn't doing disclosure. So it isn't telling me if my email doesn't exist or the password is incorrect. It's either or, and it's going to tell me that regardless of what I put in, which is good. From a security point of view, not good from our point of view. We want to break it. So let's try a few things here first. So let's just try without an email and see what happens, because I suspect that it is going to do client-side validation. No, it's not even going to do that. Sometimes on client-side, there is an option with HTML. I think you can set the input type to be like email, or the browser will actually check that this conforms to an email address. But again, that can be circumvented quite easily by an attacker. So there we just get a generic message back, unauthorized. Now, remember I said that back in this sometimes is a database. So some of the things you want to try is either in either the username or the password field is put an apostrophe. Now, why this is going to work, as you can see here, is, oh, yikes, that's even worse. With a SQL command, if you put an apostrophe is always needed as part of the SQL when you're using a string. So if you have a username and a password, those are almost always guaranteed to be strings. I can't even think of a case where there wouldn't be. So you'd always have enclosing apostrophes around those strings. So by putting in another one, you're going to break that string. And this here is terrible. You never, ever, ever, ever want to log your SQL query, because now this is just making things so much easier in terms of working out the SQL injection. So we can actually see the raw SQL query here. So what we can do is let's copy that, and you want to come to editor. Where's my editor? Why is that not working? So paste that. All right. And remember, that's basically our email that we need to enter. So what we could do is we need to end quote, but we need to essentially pick a user. Otherwise, we could end it. Actually, no, we couldn't. We need to pick a user, right? The reason being is email needs to equal something. If we don't specify a user, or actually, sorry, Allah, we could do this. So we end the quote and we put or something like 1 equals 1. And then end the query and then do dash dash. Think dash dash. So again, this is why this is bad. Because we know what database has now been used based on the error. And often the databases differ slightly in terms of things like comments and that type of thing. So I think SQLite uses dash dash. I know MySQL uses dash dash. And that means there's a comment. So basically, the query now looks like that. And then the rest of it's commented out. So we basically need to put in that as an email address. So let's put that in and see what happens. Hey, look at that. So this would get essentially the first user in that table. What we could also do is if we know the user exists, we could do something like that. So we know this user exists here. So let's come back to our last query. So we can do that. And you can go add password. So let me reset. So we know the username is this, right? So we can put the username in there. So the username would just become that. And then let's get rid of that. And then for the password, that's not going to work in this case. Now, the reason why that's not going to work in this case is because this has been hashed. So whatever I put in as a password, it's going to be hashed. So what I could technically do is something like that. And then password equals just trying to work it out. That's probably not going to work. How do you password equals that? Yeah, that's probably not going to work. I don't think that's going to work, is it? Because you're ending the quote, password's not going to be empty in the database, so therefore you're not going to be able to. But what we could do is if we do want to do explicit user, we could still put it in the admin. So basically take that away. Just all of this would still be there. But what we would do is end that. So put that in. And the password equals 1. Actually, no, that's not going to work. I'm trying to think. Oh, my brain's not working. And password. Oh, you could do something like this. Is not. No. So if there's a password set in the database, it's going to work. And then you want to do that and that. That should work, I think. Let's try that. I don't know if this is going to work. No, there we go. Same thing, works. So yeah, we can now actually specify the user that we want to go to. So I think what we could do is if we come back to, what was it? The actual page itself, there were other users. So if we want to go in, yeah, Bender, all right. If we did the original one, it will always return that initial first entry in the database. So now if we go to this user, we select Bender, there we go. We've now logged in as Bender. So we can now log in as any user as we want to, which is cool. And we can now see that we've solved 2 challenges here. So we are probably going to go log in as admin. So let's log in as admin. Now it's returning a token. In the past, typical older web apps used session cookies. Now, session cookies are required because HTTP is essentially a stateless protocol. It has no notion of, hey, this request belongs to this system, user, whatever. So whenever you get a request in, how do you associate that request to a specific entity? And how that's done is via cookies. Well, in the past, it's done by cookies, session cookies. So there's a random string that you send that the browser stores and sends with every request. The server can then say, hey, this random unique string I can associate with that person. So when you log in, you get that token assigned to you and away you go. And that's done in the past with session cookies. Still done to some extent. A lot of this is changing. Now, the reason why this is changing is in the past you had the request response, right? Send a request, get the response is the page. That's changed. You now send a request, which is an API request, and in the response you get a piece of data that then gets rendered. The browser's not going to be able to interpret cookies and that kind of stuff in that context. Not like it can with like pure send request, get the page back. So what are the things? Actually, sorry. Yeah, I'm going to think of how I phrase it. So one of the things that we make use of is something called a JWT, JSON Web Token. And this is often associated with authentication to API calls. So when you make a request, the app, the page itself with all the JavaScript magic will take that token, usually stored somewhere in like your local session storage, or sorry, your local storage or your session storage. It should rarely be in your session storage. And then it will inject that into that request and send it off. So that way you can have a identity assigned to that request. And the format JWT takes in is it's got a header, it's got a payload, and then a signature. So what we can do is, and those are separated out by dots. So you essentially have 2 dots separated out. So there's the first one. And this is how you can generally identify this as a JWT. And there's the second one. And it's URL base 64 encoded. So what that means is there's no equals or plus at the end. Now, we could just try to do this manually, or you could get a plugin, or we can go and search for. I'm just going to disable this so we don't go via that and create a bunch of noise. There's a really awesome tool, highly recommend it. Tool called CyberChef. There's loads and loads and loads. You can do so many things with this. And one of the really cool things you can do with this is decode a JWT. So if we copy that, paste that in there. And the cool thing is you can also then build upon and essentially build your recipe. So you can do JWT, do some twisting, and it's like, yeah, there's so much stuff that you can do with it. But in our case, we just want to decode it. So we're just going to decode it, and it'll automatically, this auto bake means we'll automatically decode it and run the recipe. Now, so this is the payload itself. If you actually want to see things like the header, so what we can do is send that there. There we go. You can see it's a JWT, and the algorithm is RS. So RSA signature 256. Signed at 256. So that is the header. So that's that. This is the payload, which is that, what's in CyberChef, which you can see all there. And then this here is the signature. Now, if you're going to decode that, it's not going to make much sense. It's because it's the signature. Now, there are some vulnerabilities around JWT and the way people implement and use them. As you saw in the header, there's this algorithm. Now, there's different types of algorithms. There's RSA 256, there's ECDHDA and all of that. I forgot what they are exactly. So let's really useful resources, jwt.io. Interesting that Ortho are the creators of this protocol and spec, and that's the actual RFC. So yeah, you got all these different algorithms. So these are the ECDSA, which is recently this past week with Java. I don't know if you've seen latest versions of Java 15 and above have a pretty significant vulnerability around that signature, where it doesn't appropriately validate. I think if you pass 0 in for some mathematics behind it, go read it up. You can bypass the signature verification, which is obviously bad. You can bypass things like JWTs. So they're these. But there are two other things that you could do. You could also not specify the algorithm, or there's also an algorithm called none. And if an algorithm none is used and the server accepts that, there's no signature. And sometimes services don't actually appropriately check for that. So what we're going to do is let's go sign in, and let's see if we can tamper with that. The reason why I want to sign in is because I'm too lazy to do all the authorization jazz. I think we signed in, didn't we? No, we haven't. I'm too lazy to do all the authorization header stuff and that. My brain's not working that great. So, okay, so now we signed in. So if we come to our proxy, so basically all the requests should be using that. Wait, what? How's that? Oh, would help if I actually enable burp again. All right, told you I've had a long day. All right, so there we go. So there's our JWT. So let's send this to a repeater, and let's actually see if we can start modifying this. Now, there's several things. One, the server might not actually even be validating the signature. So we can actually change that. So let's go back to CyberChef, and let's actually modify this to be that other user. What was that other user? Let's just open that up. Was it this? Yeah, Bender. Let's make it Bender. So if we can modify it to become Bender. Need to put that. We'll just change that to Bender and username role admin. That's also interesting. So you can also do a role there, but let's just do that. Now we need to encode it. So as I said, let's remove that. We want to do basically base 64 encode to base 64, and we want URL encoding, so we ignore the equals at the end. And now we can do this. This is a really cumbersome way. Really install a plugin and you will have much better luck. Now, this didn't work. Now, typically what you want to do is throw for there's also this authorization header. Yeah, I'll explain that really quickly. You typically want to do a 401 if a token fails, any sort of validation. Typically what you would do is send it in the authorization header, and then there's bearer, which is called a bearer token, and you send that. All right, so let's just see which one it's doing. So I'm just going back to the original one. Send this again. Okay. That's interesting. Let's just get this again. So send this to repeater. Maybe I've done something weird. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing. So let's remove that. Okay, so you need that. And let's remove this authorization header. Do you need that? Okay, so it looks like it's not even using that. It's using this cookie, the token cookie. So and copy that again. Put that in. Take away that. Send that. All right. So this failed. I suspect that it is doing validation, and because we tampered with it, that means the validation's failed. Now, what we could do is just simply remove the signature. See what happens there. Still works, or still fails. Do that as well. Still fails. Now, one last thing we can try is this here. So let's change this and change the top, change the algorithm to be none. All right, so we'll change that to be none. It still didn't work. I'm just wondering whether I got this right. So one thing I'm going to do is, where's our bender? Bender. All right, so let's just change this to bender, right? What I want to do is just get the body from bender. So get all of this. I'm just going to copy this. So this here, if we paste it back in, yeah. Remove that. We are logging as bender with this, but we essentially doing it with the admin token. So let's close that. Send this again. Send this to repeater. And this is why the plugins are going to be so much better. Next time I'll install the plugins and use those instead. Where is the last dot? Oh my gosh. Oh, there we go. So we do change that. Oh, let's remove this header. I don't even think it matters. We'll remove it anyway. All right, so that one failed. That one failed. Failed. All right. Let's copy that. Change that. Make that none. I think sometimes you also have to change the uppercase, lowercase, all that type of stuff. And that didn't seem to work. I'm missing the dots. You need the dots at the end because it's still there. Okay, so there. So what we did there is we bypassed the JWT and we've logged in as another user. So just recapping, the algorithm is none, and as a result, it's not doing any signature validation on the actual token, and therefore you can modify the token. And because it's using that for authentication, you can then alter your user. So I suspect in this case, what we could do, so all of this stuff here, I assume is admin. So let's actually test that out. Let's log in as Bender. And modify his token, or their token, to become admin. Because remember, there's that role admin. We'll log in. I don't know if it changes. I don't know. Can we go here? Profile. I don't know if it tells you the role. But anyway, can come down here. And we probably, yeah, so we'll take this. I'm going to stop modifying thing. Actually does it all in one line. Oh, so I need to install those plugins. So let's copy that. So that there. Paste that there. Just going to do this to make it easier, laugh a bit easier. Copy that. We're going to remove that. And we're going to take that. Put that in there. Let's just remove basics 4. And we're going to find the role. So it's customer. I'm going to change their role. This is crazy. I need to install that plugin. So we're going to change our role to I'm going to change our role for Bender to become admin. And now if we copy this token, because we have no signature validation, this should now work. And since this is a cookie, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to modify it in the browser. And then all the requests I make should be there. So here's this token. Change that token. There's also, this is where the local storage is. So we can also change it here. So let's just change it there. This is where JavaScript will be used to pull this and then send it. And then session, nothing there. Cool. So the problem. I don't know what an admin has access to. So let's see. Oh, I didn't even look in there. So if we come back. Do we get access to anything? I don't know. I don't know if I'm an admin. I really don't know. I don't know. Let's go have a look at the proxy. Just decode this token. That's change to JWT decode. We admin. So I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, sorry, only seeing the messages now. Yeah, JWTO is pretty cool. Also, if you go back, there's the libraries, and it's just got like loads and loads and loads of libraries for the different languages. So these would be the kind of recommended ones. So would recommend if you're looking to leverage JWT, look to these libraries here. I am really confused because I was expecting that to be like a challenge. So I don't know if we got admin or not. All right, so let's try this again. Let's just get a password, our password, and let's try log in as admin, the actual real admin, and see if there's anything there that we can see and identify that makes us an admin account. All right, so on our accounts, admin, orders, order history. No. Privacy. Anything in the menu here? Nope. Chat. So I don't know if there's anything within this that actually differentiates an admin and a customer, because I can't see anything. Maybe there's a page somewhere, like an admin page. Yeah, I'll have to have a further look, but try play around. But I certainly can't see anything that would indicate this isn't an admin account. I mean, even if it comes to the profile, there's nothing here. Maybe there's something in the profile. Oh, this is interesting. This is returning HTML. I was expecting that to be JSON. That's interesting. But I don't think there's anything indicating what they are. No, nothing there. So yeah, I don't know how to differentiate between the different accounts. But anyway, regardless, we still broke the token. Still could use the token to essentially log in as someone else. Not that it matters, because we could use SQL injection to log in as someone else. I think the next step is maybe trying to iterate through the list of users. So one way of doing that is we have these reviews. So like you can see Stan, we've got Bender. This is where Pro would be really helpful. So you could actually kind of crawl all of these. I don't know if crawl would work because it's kind of browser based. So we could look at trying to do a crawler from the browser. I think this is maybe actually where Zap is maybe a bit better. But anyway, the point being is we should be able to then be able to search for all the email addresses, and then that will give us a list of usernames as well. There might be other ways of using enumeration as well, but we can have a look at that next time, because I think we've actually accomplished quite a bit. What did we solve this time around? So we've got the DOM XSS working. We gave the 0-star feedback. What else? We broke the JWT. So we logged in as an administrator. I'm pretty sure we also logged in as Bender here. So yeah, we've broke the captcha last week. Wait, where's the other one? Huh? Says we've got 2. Oh, there we go. And we logged in with Bender. Okay, so we can easily log in with Jim as well. Let's finish off on a high note. So Jim, there might actually be a different email address, possibly. I suspect. So we might not get it. But let's try. There's no harm in trying. And yeah, let's log in. Other things that we've not even looked at here. So registering. So we can look at that next. And also forgot password. These are also juicy targets to attack. Would help if I actually change the name. Told you my brain is not working. There we go. As easy as that. We could also done JWT, I suppose. So yeah, hopefully this has been helpful and somewhat informative. Thank you for all attending. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I think we're starting to get into nice juicy things now. Excuse the pun. Hey, maybe that's where Juice Shop came from. I'm slow. But yeah, I'm unfortunately away next week, so I'll probably look for the week after. I'll schedule something. But hope you all have a great weekend, and thanks for coming, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Swear I won't forget this, why do I regret this? In my mind reckless, thoughts are feeling endless. Sitting up I'm breathless, anxiety's infectious. I feel so defenseless, betrayed and embarrassed. I hate being open, I hate being broken. I feel like an ocean filled up with emotion. Anger ain't a potion, rub it on like lotion. I can feel it soaking, reopen, the scars have awoken. I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go. I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go.